Good evening, everybody, or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to this Monday's Zen and Zazen class. I hope you had a good golden week if you're living in a country where they have a golden week like Japan and China. Yesterday, the golden week ended, and today I want to talk about some of Kodo Sawaki's quotes. But before that, as always, let's sit together for 30 minutes. Thank you for joining. Today I will say a few things about Sawaki's quote from chapter 4, which is page 22. I talked about the first two quotes 2 weeks ago. The second of those quotes was birth, old age, sickness and death. We can't fool around with these ultimate facts. And the next quote also goes in the same direction. Reality. Getting a handle on this must be our goal. Don't get stuck in categories. The Japanese original for reality is jitsu butsu, which maybe more literally could also be translated as the real thing, the real stuff, jitsu butsu. And getting a handle on this must be our goal. I'm not so sure how happy I am with my own translation right now. Getting a handle on this sounds as if it was possible to get a handle on the real thing, and the real thing refers to birth, getting older, getting sick, and dying. That's the reality of our existence. Before we know it, we are thrown out into this world. We get older, get sick and die. But, well, I'm talking about it all the time, but when you turn on TV, there's news about the weather, about the economy, the stocks are going up, the stocks are going down, but nobody talks about, well, the fact that you're gonna die. You're gonna die. But, well, it's probably not possible to get a handle on this. We probably wish we could. We could control. We could control our getting older. We could control diseases. We could control dying. And some people seriously think that maybe during this century we will become, how do you say, undieable. We will live forever. Medicine will find the cure, and finally the last problem of humanity will be solved. We're not going to die anymore. Well, if that would happen, I think we would be in even bigger trouble. I think one of the nice things of life is, at least from my point of view, that it has an end. If we would be confronted with the fact that it's going to go on forever, wow. We would need a lot of Netflix to keep ourselves entertained. But anyway, I think we have this idea we need to get a handle on the problems. What Sawaki says here in the original is more the real thing. You have to start with, well, you have to do something about it. You have to do something about it. You're born into this world, you get older, you will get sick, you will die. That's where you need to start. You have to confront these facts. There's no way around confronting these facts. You will never get a handle on it, but at least you have to deal with this reality of your life. Don't get stuck in categories. That's what we always do. We always get stuck in categories the moment we learn to say I, me, mine. Today, tomorrow, yesterday. And that's when the game starts. Comparing ourselves to the others, comparing ourselves to who we were 10 years ago. And we stop looking reality straight into the face. And I think what we do here when we do Zazen, the meaning of this is to take a break from only thinking in categories, being lost on the map, and returning to the scenery of life. What Sawaki here calls reality, you could also call it the scenery of life. You have to take a straight look at the scenery. Don't get lost on the map. Don't look at the map, look at the scenery of life. Xuan-san, maybe you want to translate today? I think your Chinese students are here as well, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I will translate. 然后今天老师继续读那个泽木老师那本书，他讲了，呃，他继续我们上2周的那个话题。今天他刚刚读了一条，简单翻译一下，就是，现实好像就是我们必须要为我们的目标找一个，英语直译是扶手哈。其实我觉得意义就是我们要为我们的目标找一个开始或者是一个依靠，大概其实是那个意思。呃，我们然后泽木老师这儿提到了，不要被这些分别和类别所困住。日语里面这个 reality 是实际性、真实性、事实的意思。也就是说，我们总是说不要看到现实，或者说我们总是说，为我们的目标找一个开始，找一个依靠。但是当我们打开电视或电脑的时候，没有人真的在说现实在发生什么，就好像没有人真的谈论你有一天会死的，没有人提。我们好像没有人真的提到你会死亡。我们是控制不了你人的变老或者是死亡或者是生病。我们是希望永生的，但是你想想，如果这个是真的的话，我们将会有更大的一个麻烦，直到永远。如果你活到永远，那将是一个特别大的问题，一个解决不了的问题。我们总是想为我们的目标，或者是我们想要得到的一个东西，找一个把手，或找一个可以依靠的东西，一个扶手，就好像你走路的时候要扶着一个拐杖一样。我们总是想，为我们想解决的问题或者我们的目标找一个依靠。好像我们真的要做点什么一样。但是你又好像，其实现实是你根本什么也做不了。嗯，后边那个说不要被分别或者是类别而困住。类别这个词呢，我们从小就其实就有这种分别心了，就是类别。像当你说到我和你的时候，当我们说到今天、明天还有昨天的时候，其实我们都没有看。当我们有这种想法，有这种就是在这样表达的时候呢，其实都是一种，就是我们没有看到现实，而你在用你的想法去定义我和你，你在你的想法去定义昨天、今天和明天。其实现实不是这样的。而坐禅呢，就是让我们看到现实，不要在地图上面找生活，要真的活在你的生活当中。嗯。
Okay, the next one is a little bit longer. It's strange that not a single person seriously considers his own life. For ages, we've been carrying around something uncooked. Then we confront ourselves with the fact that it's the same for the others too. That's what I call group stupidity, thinking that we just have to be like the others. Satori means creating your own life. It means waking up from group stupidity. Group stupidity is an expression that Sawaki Roshi uses a lot in this book, especially in the second chapter. He's been repeating that over and over. In Japanese, it's group, boke, group stupidity. Considering your own life I think he's referring again to being born, getting older, getting sick, dying. The fact that we don't really know why we are here. We don't know what's going to happen afterwards. We don't really know the meaning of the whole game. We've been carrying around something uncooked. I think it's this feeling, of not really being so sure, of feeling a little bit out of place. We are unsure. What am I doing here in the first place? But probably it's the same for everybody else. So maybe I just go along with the game. I just play it like the others too. I'm not quite sure. But the others don't seem to be so sure either. So I just live my life like the others. I just play the game like the others. And that's what Sawaki Roshi here calls group stupidity. The game is going to end sooner or later anyway. So why do you try to win against the others? Why do you try to collect more points than the others? Satori, that's the Zen word for enlightenment, awakening, realization. Satori means creating your own life. In Japanese, the word that's used here is motsu, which means to hold something, or in this case, it could also be taking responsibility for something. So Satori means to take responsibility for your life, would have been another possibility. Probably I let myself inspired by something that the abbot of Antaiji told me when I first visited. I was still 22, and he asked me, why have you come? And I said, to study Buddhism. And he said, this is not a school. You have to create Antaiji. And creating Antaiji, of course, also means to create your life. Another possibility again would be take responsibility for your life. Take responsibility for the place that you are in. Satori means creating your own life, taking responsibility for your life. It means waking up from group stupidity. Play your own game. Think about what game you want to play. It's gonna end. It's gonna end. You're not gonna live forever. So how do you want to play the game? Is it more about the coins that you gain, the points, or is it about the fun that you have and maybe also the enjoyment that you can create for others? I think at least that's part of what Sawaki Roshi is saying here.
然后后面这一段稍微有点长，我简单给大家就是翻译一下。这是一件非常奇怪的事情。我们每一个人好像都在很严肃的考虑他自己的生活。很多年，就是很多年，或者是很久一段时间，我们总是好像携带一些你并不确定的东西。英文的直译是没有炒熟的东西哈，没有做熟的东西，其实就是你不确定，你不知道到底是怎么回事的一些事，你总是携带，总是和这些疑问在一起，就是你总是有这些疑问，然后我们总是觉得好像这个现实，我们觉得我们自己很舒服，就是和这个其他人一样的时候呢，好像我们自己就会变得很舒服。这个就是那个泽木老师经常提到的集体愚昧，就好像我们的想法一定要和其他人一样，日语里面叫 Satori，就是中文翻译成开悟或者是禅定。泽木老师在这儿说的是什么意思呢？就是指的是你要创造你自己的生活，你要为自己的生活而负责。你必须从集体愚昧里面醒过来，从集体愚昧当中解脱出来。这个集体愚昧这个词，我们之前提到过很多次了。其实我们 不是真的就很多时候老师说我们其实不是真的知道这个游戏到底是什么意思，但是你却一直在玩这个游戏，你也不确定到底是怎么样的，但是呢，你却想跟别人一样，但是其实别人也不知道具体这个事情是怎么样的，所以我们从一开始你就不知道你自己在干嘛。你虽然自己不知道，但是别人其实也是不知道的。可是你又想跟别人一样，我们总是活在别人好像也不确定的那个生活当中，但是必须要和别人一样，好像你自己才有安全感，你自己才觉得自己很舒服。这个那泽木老师在这儿其实就提到了，那为什么你总是会想要赢别人呢？既然都不确定，你只是既然都不确定的话，就是你的舒服感是给自己的，其实也是在一个不确定的情况下给自己的。那为什么你一定要想要赢到别人呢？或者是说你一定要想在生活这个游戏当中得高分呢？禅定或者说开悟，我们瑜伽里面讲，就是 samadhi 哈，它其实指的是你要对自己的生活负责。然后老师讲到了他其实第一次去安泰寺的时候，我刚从安泰寺回来哈，就是我去的那个地方，就是那个老师第一次去安泰寺的时候，他当时22岁，他去的时候呢，然后当时那个住持就问他说：“你为什么要来安泰寺？”然后那个我们吴芳老师说：“我来学禅，来安泰寺学禅修，来禅修学禅的。”然后那当时住持给他的回答就是：“嗯。”他说那个其实安泰寺是由你来创造的，是由你来建造的，你应该为自己而负责，而不是到这里来学习。你应该为安泰寺负责，为你自己的修行负责，而不是到这儿来学什么。所以泽木老师其实他讲到的就是，嗯，我们你应当为自己负责，为自己的生活负责，不要盲目的遵从别人也不确定的事情，要从集体愚昧当中解脱出来。大概是这个意思。
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Anything you would like to share? If yes, you're welcome to do so. Raise your hand or just start to speak like that. Or if you're too shy, you can also use the chat function. Nothing? No questions? Julian, please.
Muho, how do you think we avoid sort of spiritual seeking just becoming a category in itself? You know, how do we avoid Zazen becoming just another categorical form of thinking, I suppose is my question.
You started with the spiritual seeking. So I supposed you were kind of asking how do we escape the trap of, well, desiring something after all. Is that your question, or is it
yeah, I think I maybe asked two questions by mistake, but that's you know, that it's easy, isn't it, to be the kind of person who thinks from a young age, oh, I don't want to fall into the usual game, so you end up looking for something, and then of course there is a danger, isn't there, that seeking can become another form of categorizing. I suppose that was my question.
Yeah, well, using that metaphor of the game, the question is, well, how we can, is it possible to really escape the game completely? And my answer to that would be no. We will always be somehow involved in a game as long as we, for example, are still eating, as long as we go to the toilet, for example, as long as we dress up when we go out on the street. And probably we won't be able to that, as long as we don't return to the woods and live like animals, we will be somehow involved in the game. And so we will also be, how do you say, there will be no way around also using categories and thinking about tomorrow, for example. If you want to pay your rent, and probably you will have to pay your rent, you need categories. to meet certain dates and pay your bills until then, or people have to take home, how do you say, take care of you. They will have to put you in a home, and you need 24 hours care if you're not. So basically, everything we do will involve categories to a certain degree, I think. It's just that there's one thing to live. Well, one simple example is, I don't have my iPhone right here with me, but well, for example, also this watch. This is a convenient tool that helps me, but what often happens is that this convenient tool becomes something. It becomes your master. You become the tool of what you thought was your tool. And that's the same with the categories. We need categories, but our problem right now is we've become slaves to the categories.
It's probably that thing we said before, isn't it? It's about not gripping them tightly, but holding them lightly.
Yeah.
And it's that change of the sort of mental grip, isn't it? Or
exactly. And a lot of people, including myself, they are critical of what some people call mindfulness. You even turn mindfulness into a cool tool, and now you tell yourself, I need to be more mindful so that I'm better at my job and everything. And of course, you can turn Zazen into that same tool. I need to get my koan solved. I need to get my enlightenment. I need to become able to sit in full lotus so that I can impress my Dharma buddies at the dojo. And of course, that's stupid. So if that happens, we need to realize, well, I'm playing that game that I wanted to escape, and now I'm playing it with different rules maybe, but it's still the same stupid game. But I think, well, if that happens, it's possible. It's possible that we realize it, or maybe other people will remind ourselves of that. So it's not that it's impossible to not be a slave of your categories. Of course, it's possible also to, how do you say, more in charge, so to speak, of your life. This expression that I was thinking about, I said create your life, but another possibility would be to take responsibility for your life. Another possibility would be to say you're in charge of your life. And in charge, of course, doesn't mean that you have your life in control, but you're not a slave of the game anymore, but you have some sovereignty when you play the game, when you lead your life, so to speak.
Thank you.
Anything else that you would like to share or ask today? Yunus, please.
Yes, hello. The question would be, I don't know if I can formulate it properly, but the problem that I see is that we find an idea, we then stick to the idea, and sort of, in my opinion, Zazen would be giving up this idea, but then we attach to a new idea.
Yes.
So this sort of keeps on repeating itself, and not forming any new categories would mean we stay in the category that we are already in right now. But the problem is that, I mean, often, maybe I only speak for myself, but there's a shitty day, or we have a bad time, or something happens, and we want to move on from that and not stay there anymore. So on one hand, we want to overcome that category that we find ourselves in at the moment, the problem that we have at the moment. And on the other hand, do you know what I mean? That there is sort of this contradiction. And yeah.
The contradiction between what? We want to get out of the categories that we're
Exactly.
having right now.
Exactly. We want to get out of the category that we find ourselves in.
Yes.
But at the same time, there's also the question, okay, what would be the next category that we might not know? And also the problem of we will find ourselves again in just another new category, which again starts the dilemma.
But don't you find yourself sometimes in this state where you're just doing what you're doing right now without thinking of the goal, without comparing yourself? For example, you just bring the garbage down because that's what you need to do right now, without asking yourself, do I enjoy this? Or maybe it would be better to hire some guy to do that cheap work and I do my computer work in the same time and I earn more money than I could get from bringing the garbage down. I mean, there's from age 3, 4, 5, we learn to use categories, but there's also time where we're just doing what we're doing. You just go to the toilet and take a pee and you don't think about anything. Or you're sitting in the bathtub and maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're just soaking in the bathtub. And basically that's, well, when I say aim, I'll also make a category of Zazen, but Zazen means you just sit, and we always say it's good for nothing to make that point. You don't do Zazen for this and that, because then you would make a category out of this. But during Zazen, you just have to be there on the cushion. You don't even have to be there on the cushion, but you are on the cushion. And you kind of, how do you say, you taste, participate, your witness to this just being there on the cushion. And it's very easy, of course, to make a category of that. Again, for example, this word flow. That's a category for that. You're in the state of flow. You're in the moment. You're one with yourself. And maybe you get a taste of that. You create this category, and then the next day you want to be there again. But just because it's easy to make these categories, it's not impossible, I think, to actually, well, get in touch with the real thing. To just live this one moment without categorizing, not even telling yourself, oh, now I'm in the moment. Right now I'm in the state of flow or whatever.
Just live your life, basically, the everyday Zen advice. Just
Yes.
live your life.
Yes, yes. Diane, please.
I really think that from all readings and practicing and all, that, you know, you do this, but then you go out into the world and you're around so many people who have no awareness of any of this. They're living their lives and they have families and they're working and they're even spiritual, but this is something that I do believe that most people that I am around are completely unawares. So then that then you can start to assimilate that, you know, everything that you're trying to do, you start to assimilate what everybody else does if you stay in that environment without coming back to practice and to sitting. And so I think it's so important to say, take that time, because when you go out there and you're around all of these things and people who, again, are not aware of this, it will take me away from it and I will start to forget. So it's a constant remember, sit. And then those feelings and that it's almost like getting refreshed again. And so I'm starting to, for myself, realize that it is helpful when I'm out in the world to then be able to come back. Does that make any sense, or that's the reality of it?
Yes, yes.
And most people don't think about that they're going to die. In fact, it almost seems harsh if I were to say, no.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mention that fact.
It's not something that people want to hear. So hearing it reminds me, but I don't feel like most people really want to do it. Don't say that. Don't say that. Yeah. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to ask or share? Genjo-san, please.
Thank you. You mentioned about compare yourself to past yourself. It's a category. And it's not that it's not necessary to compare myself to others, but if I want to create my own life, I wouldn't say necessary, but how I am now is a kind of result of my past. To see myself, and I live now, every moment it's now. What I said is past. And then to create my own life, not getting involved with stupidity, in a way, isn't it important to see, in a way, compare myself to my past self?
Is it important?
How could I get to know? I wouldn't say improvement, but for example, if I look back and I saw one thing in a certain way, that moment in the past, but now when I look back, I see it differently. Even the past changed in lifetime. To see that without looking back, without past, it's impossible, isn't it? And I think it's very important for creating my own life. What would you say? Maybe not. I ask you.
Well, of course, we change, we develop. But is it really so important to kind of look back and see how we changed? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if it's so super important. We don't have to deny it.
Important. It's not super important, but it's one way to see myself. Otherwise, how can I see myself? I ask myself, as I said, compare yourself to the past self as a category. This is a question occurred in me. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, but is it important to create yourself? So, to create the story of your own life. Of course, well, you need to look back on your life and how you developed. And we sometimes do that, and I wouldn't say, well, you shouldn't do it. Of course, you can do it. On the other hand, I'm not quite sure if that's really so important or if it's necessary to take responsibility of your life right now, to have this kind of story and idea who you are. I think even if you don't have that story and you don't have a clear idea of who you are, you can still take responsibility of your life right now.
What you said right now is a kind of relief for me, that when I look back, I didn't take enough responsibility for my life, and therefore I feel a lot of regret. But if you say you take your responsibility right now, and then I don't have to look back and feel bad about my lack of responsibility anymore. I can concentrate on now. That's a good news for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I like even in the case you wake up tomorrow, you don't remember who you are. All of your memories of the past are erased. But apart from that, you're in a clear mind. You can still communicate with the people around you. I think that wouldn't really obstruct you from taking responsibility of your life. You don't need that story. Maybe if it helps you to have that story, good. But I think it's not so much when Sawaki Roshi here talks about, well, in Japanese he says jinsei or motsu. He doesn't say create your life or taking responsibility. It just means to have a life, so to speak. You don't need that story. I don't think it's really so necessary. But Sebastian is raising his hands.
Yes, I was thinking, the question occurred when you said, when I lost all my thoughts and everything, I can still take responsibility for my life.
Yes.
But I think I have to remind me when we think we can be pulled away by group stupidity. Somehow I have to remind myself when I'm in a group, in the world outside, I have to remind myself to take responsibility again. How do I do this when I don't have categories?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. Of course, to take down the garbage, you need a category of what garbage means, and you need to know where the garbage disposal is. So you need a minimum of garbage. But
maybe I can put it in another way. When I'm in everyday life,
yes,
I get into categories again, and then I have to remind myself not to get into categories, but I somehow need a category to get out of the categories again. For this reminder. And yes, I don't know if it's more clear.
Well, maybe in the beginning you need kind of this reminder, oh, I'm not supposed to have any categories. But I think it's possible to get a little more natural. So I think, for example, this problem with creating a story. What some people of us do, for example, what is very important, especially in the West, is where do I stand politically? I am a liberal. I stand on the left. So when you are with your friends, then it's always about, well, I'm liberal, so I'm supposed to take this position. And also 5 years ago, I took this position. I was, for example, against nuclear power. I'm not supposed to be for it now. So we already have this story about, and that's exactly what also is called group stupidity. I know my friends are thinking this, and my friends expect me to think this. so we spin this story. How about the war in Ukraine? How's the left thinking about the war in Ukraine? How's the left thinking about coronavirus, whatever? And of course, with the right, it's the same. It's not a problem. That's something has to do with the left. So the same with I'm saying I'm right. So what am I supposed to think as a person who's belonging to the political right? And that might help you to take responsibility of your life in a certain, but a very stupid way. But I think it's possible to get out of that. And maybe in the beginning, you create this category of, well, now I'm behaving in a very unpredictable way. So on purpose, maybe you always do and say what people don't expect you to do to surprise them. And that's, of course, also just another stupid game. But it's not impossible to get out of that and completely not think about this story that you or others create of yourself, and just think about, well, today, your life. So one thing was the mask that my wife wore when she came home an hour ago. Regardless of what people on the left say and on the right say, what do I do? What do I do? And you don't need that story. Of course, if you have the story, it helps you. If you have the story, I'm left, the people on the left say that, so I do it. It helps you a lot. But that's group stupidity. And the reason why people fall victim to group stupidity, because it makes life much easier. Makes life easier if you just do what people on your side of the field do. But it doesn't mean that we need to be trapped by that. I think there's a different way to live.
Yes, I think so too. But somehow, when I'm in everyday life, it gets lost somehow. I don't know how, but I think it feels like I was dragged out of that point. I start the day maybe sitting Zazen and then get up and go out and take responsibility for my life and do what I do. And then a lot of things happen, a lot of people around, and somehow I get lost off track, and then I sometimes don't know how to get back in everyday life. Is it just go back to the cushion and sit, or what's the way?
Sitting on the cushion also helps. Yeah, I mean, it's probably what Buddhists would call karma, conditioning. Our mind is conditioned, and even if we understand it's stupid, we are a victim of group stupidity. We are conditioned that we play the game. And the fact that we're conditioned to play the game in that way doesn't mean that it can't be changed, but it's a very long process. Conditioning doesn't stop just because you understand it's stupid. It's like quitting smoking. You decide I quit smoking, and 2 days later you're smoking again. Why? You decided to quit smoking because it's conditioning. And the way we behave, the way we play the game, it's like smoking or drinking. It's almost like an addiction. It's not impossible to get free from it, but it's a long process. And having a daily practice, having a place to return to, Zazen on the cushion, can help a lot, I think. And there's a chat here. We are really create our life or create our environment the life. Probably both, I guess. I guess both. It's kind of, how do you say? Like two wheels that are connected. So we are also created by life. Like I often said, we talk about leading our lives, but we also have to realize that life is leading us, and we need to sometimes allow life to lead us. But allowing life to lead us doesn't mean to become a victim of group stupidity. So those are two different things. Okay, today it's already 9:20 already. Thank you for joining so long. Next week it's going to be about Fukan Zengi again, and in 2 weeks I'm going to be in Antaiji. Xuan-san, if it's possible, I would take a day off in 2 weeks. Maybe you do pranayama or you decide what you do in 2 weeks. And then next week and then in 3 weeks I will be back. Thank you for joining. Have a nice week and see you again if you like next Monday.
You again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.